So who is first? Sorry.
Mirjana Brkovic is going to be first, unless Dragan Ivanović wants to say hello as an organizer.
Okay. So, Dragan, Mirjana, can you share your cameras?
Okay. Hello, welcome everyone to this session specified for the results of University of Novi Sad in the field of, let's say, open access to scientific results of our researchers employed at the University of Novi Sad. Firstly, we will demonstrate our, let's say, the library of PhD dissertations. And we have two presentations for that. The first one will be done by Mirjana Brkovic, and the second one by Ljubomir Paskali. And after that, Branko Milosavljević will talk a little bit about the, let's say, institutional repository of results, of all results, let's say, paper journals and so on, journal papers, conference papers, and so on. So that's all from my side, and now I'm giving the microphone back to the Iva, who is going to introduce the first speaker.
Okay, thank you. So I will introduce Mirjana Brkovic to you. Hello, Mirjana. She comes from as the rest of the panelists, from the University of Novi Sad. She works as a head of the library of the university, and her fields of interests are librarianship and the history of literature. She is very active in her library. She is organizing a book exhibition, international and domestic. She takes care of the redaction of the library catalog, publishes biographies, books. So today what we will hear from Mirjana more is about the digital library of doctoral dissertations that are defended at the University of Novi Sad and that are available in open access. So please, Mirjana, you can start, and you can start sharing your screen and your presentation.
Okay.
Thank you. I would also like to invite everyone, every attendee, if they want to ask questions, use Q&A button at the bottom of the screen, and we will, and please write for whom is the question. So we will try to keep questions and answers at the end of the session and not after every presentation. Okay, so thank you, and Mirjana, you can start.
Thank you very much. My name is, as you heard, Mirjana Brkovic. I work at the library of University of Novi Sad. I will talk about doctoral dissertations defended at the University of Novi Sad and our aims as librarians and researchers to put them in the open access. In fact, since 2003, the Executive Council of the Autonomous Province of Vojvodina and the Provincial Secretary for Science and Technological Development have financed the project for implementation of experimental service for digital library of final papers network. We call that service a digital library, or DIGLIB. The main goals of this service were to accomplish the international standards for bibliographic exchange, also to be compatible with standards for written characters and text, so-called Unicode standard, since we are writing in Cyrillic and also in Latin type of letters. Also, we wanted DIGLIB to be executed on the open software architecture and to be implemented on the open source platforms. The team which were to implement the project was entrusted to Professor Dr. Dušan Surla, and his team of experts were from University of Novi Sad, Department for Information Technology and Computers, Faculty of Technical Sciences, Department of Computer Science and Informatics, and also the Faculty of Science, Department for Mathematics and Informatics. The communication infrastructure for DIGLIB was already there. It was implemented on the academic information network on which it is installed like computer communication and software support. All the functions of the DIGLIB were web-oriented, and the librarians and administrative workers at the university were supposed to use it. The University of Novi Sad Senate passed the decision on June 1st, 2005, that the doctoral dissertations will be available to the public during a 30 days period on the university web page. This was a huge step. The paper versions were also available to the public at the faculty or university library at the same time. After this period, and disabling the public access, electronic dissertations were to be archived in the DIGLIB software. There was a discussion about this procedure at the University of Novi Sad Senate on May 27th in 2005. There was also a discussion and a new proposition made to the University of Novi Sad Rector and Senate on September 16, 2011. The DIGLIB team, in cooperation with the University Central Library, made a proposition to put all the doctoral dissertations defended at the University of Novi Sad in open access mode permanently. Complete scientific production of the University of Novi Sad also was supposed to be published through a web application. Therefore, the doctoral dissertations became only one segment of this software solution. During 2012 and 2013, the digital library of doctoral dissertations defended at the University of Novi Sad became a part of a current research information system of the University of Novi Sad, or so-called CRIS-UNS system. In 2013, Senate passed the decision that the doctoral candidates and also doctors of science can sign the copyright license and grant the digital library. There was a possibility to choose between the positive and negative copyright license, or to approve the open access or to deny it. In the same year, in 2013, new equipment was purchased for the Central Library by a European project named IPA HETIP, and we bought robotic book scan from Kidenus company settled in Vienna. Now I will show you some of the aspects of this software which we use at the University of Novi Sad. This is a table which shows the citations which are on 30 days open access period. This is also the entrance to the digital library of doctoral dissertations defended at the University of Novi Sad. This is the basic mode searching, where you can put one question, whether it is a name and surname of the author or the title of the dissertation, you get the answer if that dissertation is inside the system or not. Also, you can use advanced mode with structured queries, and also there is a list of our faculties where you can narrow the search and get only the answer if that faculty has the search for dissertation. We use Creative Commons licenses and all the open access benefits. The Republic of Serbia Assembly passed a higher education law in 2014, by which all the institutions in higher education in the Republic of Serbia were obliged to permanently make open access to all defended electronic dissertations from September 19, 2014 on. University of Novi Sad was completely ready for the new higher education law. Conversions of data from CRIS-UNS system to the National Repository of Dissertation of Serbia lasted only 14 days and was successfully ended. We were very proud of this project. In National Repository, there are 2,087 dissertations defended at Novi Sad. This is a search screen for this National Repository. Naturally, development team of the CRIS UNS could not be satisfied by the fact that electronic dissertations from the University of Novi Sad are accessible only at the national level. Conversions to the portals all over the world started immediately after national portal accession. This process is still active. I will show you some of the conversions which have already been done. The Network Digital Library of Theses and Dissertations is a global network of electronic theses. There are 1,952 dissertations from Novi Sad. DART Europe is a European portal of electronic theses and dissertations. 1,655 dissertations are from Novi Sad. Open Access to Theses and Dissertations, or OATD, system has 2,072 dissertations from Novi Sad. European Network for Institutional Repositories with Open Access, so-called Open Air, has 2,059 dissertations from Novi Sad. And there is also one big question: what brings the future? CRIS UNS development team is always planning few steps ahead. We are thinking about how to stop producing paper versions of the doctoral dissertations and switch or shift to electronic dissertations completely. Also, while we speak, some new features like uploading the doctoral artistic projects are tested, etc., etc. Thank you for your attention. This is my name and the place where I work, and also my contact information. That is all. Thank you for the attention.
Okay. Thank you, Mirjana, a lot for your presentation. There are no questions at the moment, and as we said, we can go on with the next presentation. So I would like to introduce Ljubomir Paskali. He is an experienced software engineer and security enthusiast with a focus on enterprise architecture. He also comes from the University of Novi Sad, from the Faculty of Technical Sciences. He has earned his master's degree there, and now he's trying to get his PhD also there. So what we will hear now from Ljubomir is something more about the usage of doctoral dissertations at the University of Novi Sad. So please, Ljubomir, you can now also share your presentation and start with your talk.
Thank you, Eva. Thank you for the nice introduction, also for having us here. Let me just share my screen. So I hope you can see my shared screen. So yeah, my name is Ljubomir, and I'm going to talk about open access dissertations usage analysis here at the University of Novi Sad. I'll be speaking about the motivation behind this kind of researches, also how we do it, what kind of results and the statistical data we get, how we use those kind of data to improve our system and user experience, and also I'll present some of the findings we have over the analysis. So let's start. So what's the motivation? Basically, the motivation is to understand our users, to understand our user needs, and to be precise, to understand our user information needs. We need to know how they use application, to recognize certain patterns in the way they use application, and also in a way of information seeking behavior. Why is that very important? It is important because we want to improve our system at the user experience at the end. Similar to any other search engines, popular search engines, we want to accomplish the same. So to have easy and a simple usage and good user experience. So out of the analysis, we get a lot of data. So one example is basically we were tracking users' search terms, and based on those search terms, we were able to do some personalized recommendation system for those users who come back to the digital library again. So basically, after the several sessions, when the users come back later, we already prepare some data for them and have personalized recommendations. Besides that, I'll be talking about system usage distribution. This is very important to know because of the technical improvements to the system. I will show the I will show you the downloads distribution, which is very interesting, and present you the top 10 mostly downloaded dissertations. And yeah, also will present you the international usage. Mirjana presented you at the end of her presentation, so I'm going to show some of the statistical data there. So how we do it? Basically, we want to track our application usage in every aspect. So it's not just user perspective, but also application performance perspective. So we have implemented several login mechanisms there, which track the application usage in general. So we are recording application events in a form of the logs, application logs, and we store those files on the file system. We keep those files for real-time analysis, for future predictions, and also analysis, and of course for the historical data we can always use later. So we have multiple types of application logs. We categorize them, and yeah, we use those logs for our analysis. So a bit about categorization. So basically, we have here listed 5 different type of application logs we store. So basically, we have search queries and query terms. We need those data in order to, we used actually those data in order to implement the personalized recommendation system. Also, we have recommendation evaluation logs. So basically, we are tracking also user feedbacks, both implicit and explicit, and store those information in order to analyze whether our own personalized implementation actually works, and are those recommendations anyhow valuable to the end users. Of course, we have also implemented different representation styles, so users can pick up textual versus visual results representation. This is also very valuable. We want to understand what actions happened before actual representation style changes, and understand what are their needs in a way of presenting the results. Download logs are something very, very interesting, and I will talk about that later. So what data do we store? Basically, any kind of data that we can use later for further analysis. So there are user-related data or application performance-related data. So besides query terms, searching modes that users use, we also track information about user agents or source used where actually end users found those dissertations. These scores are more relevant for us that we use to evaluate our own implementation and recommendation system. These all data we use sometimes as a raw data, other times when some more complex analysis are required, we do some pre-processing in order to connect different logs into a single log you later use for the analysis. So for that, we use Elasticstack, that is well-known set of tools integrated together that work together. Those are Elasticsearch used for storing data, Logstash for extracting data for the files, and Kibana is used actually for visualization. I hope you guys know this technology stack because it's very useful to have it around. So now a bit about the numbers. So for this presentation purpose, I analyzed the application logs over the 3-year period, so for 2017 to 2019. And yeah, there are a total number of almost 390,000 dissertation downloads, which is very nice number. But I have to say that not all these downloads are performed by the end users. Some of those are performed by the search engine bots, and these logs are excluded for the further analysis. So we only do analysis on the downloads by the end real users. Total number of search queries, search requests over the 3-year period was almost 30,000, and we can see there are some discrepancies between the downloads and search requests. And what we assume and take that as a usage distribution is that actually there are many more downloads, as we can see, and we assume that the researchers and users know exactly the keywords they're looking for. And when they have the search results, they download or probably all the related dissertations. Also, we can say that personalized recommendation system might impact these numbers also. From the timely distribution in a timely manner, we also do some analysis over there in order to have clear picture how we can improve the system itself. Is it necessary to improve it from a technical perspective? So we understand, and from the logs, we understood that there are more active users, and application is frequently used during the active academic months here at the University of Novi Sad. So basically, those are March to June periods, and also September to December, which we will see later on the graph. So we have less than 20,000 downloads per month during semester breaks, which is also fine, and that numbers goes much higher during the active academic month periods. More than 2,000 search queries in active month periods also. So we also did the part of the day analysis. So we figured out that the application is most frequently used during the central and afternoon hours at the end of the working week, and these usages are less at the weekend. So why is that all important? Firstly, of course, for further technical improvements, but we want to understand whether some scaling is necessary in a way of horizontally or vertically. Do we need to, let's say, run complex activities that might take server resources in the certain periods of a day or of a week, or when is most suitable for temporary shutdowns if it's required. So as I mentioned, on the picture here, we can see distribution of downloads and queries by month. And if you look at the January and February periods, and also July and August, we can see that we have less active people there in the comparison with the active months in the university. Other analysis, this is very interesting topic, is top 10 mostly downloads distributions. I have here the top 10 mostly download dissertations, and there is very valuable information that 3 dissertations out of top 10 mostly downloaded dissertations relate to the physical activity of children of the preschool age. All 3 dissertations are held at the Faculty of Sport and Physical Education at the University of Novi Sad. Very interesting information is also that these 3 dissertations are downloaded a bit more than 10,000 times, whereas any other dissertation downloads at the Faculty of Sport and Physical Education are downloaded a bit more than 26,000 times. So these 3 dissertations are a bit more downloaded, a bit more than 30% in comparison with total downloads. Other dissertation relates to the topics of medicine, music, economics, and education. 2 dissertations deal with the Western Balkans topic in art and economy areas. One topic which was very nice is relates to Branko, which is Croatian rock and roll star. These are all dissertations, mostly downloaded dissertations. So we can conclude based on the top 10 mostly downloaded dissertations that we have active users outside the academic community, which is very important. Some other statistical data is that most downloads of dissertations are from Faculty of Philosophy in Novi Sad, and most published dissertations have Faculty of Technical Sciences and Faculty of Sciences at the university. So why is this very important and interesting? Because we want to give credits to the certain authors, to the certain institutions, also to help in granting awards and understand whether we have interest in users outside the academic community. I hope you can see this data. I have a little graph here. So these are user downloads by publication year. So we can say that the dissertations published in the last 4 years are mostly downloaded. Dissertations published at 2016 are downloaded almost 8,000 times, whereas dissertations published at 2017 and 2018 have around 50,000 downloads. Last thing I'm going to mention here is international usage. As Mirjana already mentioned, we are exporting dissertations to some of the aggregated system, both nationally and internationally. And yeah, we want to analyze and see whether these exports actually increase the visibility of our scientific work at the university. So based on the data, more than 50% or over the 40,000 downloads in the last, in the 3-year period are downloads from the aggregated system, which is very nice. And yeah, exporting data, exporting dissertations really increased visibility. I have to say that the majority of these dissertations are written in the Serbian language with very few exceptions. So we can understand that system is frequently used for the Balkans, the Balkan areas. Also, by that I mean Slavic languages speaking regions, let's say. But no matter that, we have our system is implemented and full text analysis is implemented, is actually language independent. So no matter in what language is actually the station written, we have the same techniques for the word normalization, stemming, etc. And the software can be used for any kind, any dissertation written in any kind of language. So also, we have a significant number of downloads and queries from areas around the world. So we assume that we have people living abroad which are still interested in science or let's say scientific work here in Serbia, which is really cool. So I have one and the last slide to present you the system usage distribution by the countries. So yeah, as I mentioned, we have Balkan areas. We have ex-Yugoslavian Republic here, but also on almost we have some users from almost every continent. So we have here Australia, China, Brazil, States, Russian Federation, and yeah, some of the Western European countries. Yeah, that's all for me. I hope you enjoyed the presentation, and I guess we'll keep questions and answers for the later.
Yes, thank you, Ljubomir. This was very, I guess that seeing detailed usage statistics is always something that can be interesting. So I believe there will be some questions regarding that later. But okay. Now we can continue with our next presentation. I will introduce our next speaker, who is Professor Branko Milosavljević. He is a full professor from the Faculty of Technical Sciences in the University of Novi Sad, active as a researcher, active on projects in publishing, but for now he will step out of his usual role of a researcher, and he will also speak to us more about the repository of scientific publications in the University of Novi Sad. So please, oh, we have lost Branko, so I hope he can come back to this. I guess he will try to reconnect. So maybe while we are, okay. Branko, can you hear us?
Hi.
Okay.
This is Branko. I lost connection for a couple of seconds.
Yes.
I apologize for that.
No problem.
Thank you for the introduction, and thank you for having me. Let me share my screen. My presentation is based on a project we have been carrying out at the University of Novi Sad and other Serbian universities called Be Open. That was meant to improve the state of the art in Serbia with regards to open science practice and publishing. It was an Erasmus project that lasted for 3.5 years, and its main goal was aimed at creating the infrastructure and overall conditions for the implementation of open science principles at universities in Serbia. And the two most important aspects of the project itself and our strive at the university is to create both a legal framework and also a technical framework. Now, I'm a technical person, not a legal one, so I will not go into many details about the legal aspects, but the project itself has produced a national platform that was adopted by the Ministry of Science that was devoted to the promotion and the basically mandatory use of open science principles with regards to open access for all research that is publicly funded, and also open data that is produced by that publicly funded research. Apart from the national platform, universities that were included in the project have developed their own institutional platforms and policies for open science. That now includes Serbian state universities, some of the private universities, and some of the research institutes. Also, one of the nice improvements in the state of the art is that at least at some universities, PhD studies have been amended with requirement for all PhD students to produce a data management plan. So we have to educate our young researchers in the field of open data and open access, and to provide them with the means to publish their research and also deposit their data so that it can be reused later. All institutions that took part in the project have signed the Berlin Declaration on Open Science. That's one of the founding declarations in this area. So when we started the project, there were already some aspects of open science implemented at Serbian state universities, and we have been presented by my colleagues with some presentations about doctoral dissertations and its use, but also there are some other kinds of repositories or digital resources available. I would like to emphasize that basically the CRIS system that's deployed in the University of Novi Sad is, I would say, basically the only fully fledged CRIS system deployed in Serbia. And I hope that we can use this system as a way to provide quality, curated metadata about current research to other types of software applications, such as institutional repositories. As you can see, institutional repositories are already present at some of the institutions, but their implementation is partial, meaning that some organizational units have them, some don't, and so on. So if we look at the overall technical infrastructure for open science publishing in Serbia, we can identify a couple of common standards that are used across all platforms. That's Dublin Core for representing metadata, and OAI PMH protocol for the harvesting of metadata. And on the other hand, among all the software implementations of institutional repositories, DSpace is the most common one. So basically, DSpace is probably the most popular institutional repository software in the world, and it is also widely adopted in Serbia. Now, with regards to the Be Open project and our goal of creating a technological infrastructure for open science publishing, we have investigated DSpace that has already been implemented in many places, and also DSpace CRIS. DSpace CRIS is an open source extension of DSpace that's been developed in Italy, initially by their government organization Cineca, and later a private company called For Science. This software is interesting because it is open source, it's actively developed, and it extends DSpace with a couple of nice features. I guess this is something that most of our attendees already know. DSpace is a piece of software that serves as institutional repository. It's devoted to managing publication with regards to their metadata, harvesting and search, and also storing the actual publications or documents. It is fairly easy to set up and run. It has a huge developer community, and the nice thing about it is that it has a configurable workflow for publication. So basically, an institution can customize the software according to its own needs and already existing workflows. Now, DSpace CRIS is a extension that adds a couple of CRIS entities to DSpace. That doesn't mean that it's a fully fledged CRIS system. Yes, it is named DSpace CRIS. I guess it has a nice sounding name, but it's still not a fully fledged CRIS system. However, the addition of these entities has improved the functionality of the system a lot. And these entities include the most important ones with regards to open access publishing being authors, institutions, projects, and citation statistics. And the one important feature that is also implemented in DSpace CRIS is that it has an extensive import from functionality that provides us with options for importing metadata from a number of sources. And we have used the Scopus implementation to collect data from our Scopus subscription to initially populate with our repository with some quality metadata, not the documents, of course, only metadata. So we started implementing our own DSpace CRIS setup at the University of Novi Sad, and the first experience is that it does not work out of the box. So you can download it, start it, and then you need to invest some effort into making it work actually. So it can be a little bit intimidating in the beginning, and there were some bugs that had to be fixed, as many other software applications always have and carry around. But after fixing them, we ended up with, I think, a better polished institutional repository with regards to what a regular DSpace provides. Some of the things that we seen as missing during development is that we needed to improve the website design, provide a Serbian translation for the user interface, and to facilitate researcher management, since they will be presented there with their researcher profiles, so that we can efficiently manage thousands of researcher profiles. So we provided some, implemented some tools for automated registration of researchers and profile deduplication functionality and coordination with Scopus import. Also, some of the nice features such as automatical cover page addition, Shaper Romeo integration, you will see an illustration of that later, was already also implemented. And since DSpace CRIS is an open source application with a GPL license, our additions to DSpace are also freely available at GitHub. So people can clone our repository and start working from there if they choose to do so. I made a couple of screenshots just to illustrate the functionality or the most important functions of our DSpace CRIS implementation. This is our homepage. It has a number of publications already there, and basically all researchers already registered inside the system. Something that typical DSpace installation is missing is a page that will present one researcher with his or her publications, biography, bibliographic indicators such as citation count, and so on. So this is an example of a researcher page where we can see some general data about the researcher, and then list the selected publications in the table below and browse through the biography and other information. One of the interesting features of DSpace CRIS that's been also implemented is the creation of a collaboration graph between the researcher that we currently looking at within its profile and the other co-authors or the most frequent co-authors of papers that the given researcher has been publishing with. So we can easily investigate the researcher networks for a given starting from the given researcher, and get some insights about the collaborations and publications that were done together. Another important feature of DSpace CRIS that's not present in the regular DSpace is that is the option to define organizational units within the institution. So we have registered a number of organizational units, starting from the top level being the university, then second level being the faculties within the university, and departments or chairs within actual faculties themselves. So it's a three-level hierarchy of organizational units, and each researcher is assigned to his or her organizational unit. So once we start browsing through organizational units, we can navigate to researchers that belong to that unit, or we can navigate to papers published by the faculty of the given organizational unit. The search functionality is similar to DSpace, with a number of filters that can help us in narrowing down the criteria for search. And one of the biggest issues we had when we started the project was that if we start with an empty repository, nobody's going to use it, because people don't like starting all over again and entering something that already was entered somewhere else. So we investigated a number of available metadata sources and implemented the import procedures for Scopus. So we were able to pull basically all publications that are in the Scopus database for our university. Apart from that, we are already underway in implementing the interoperability layer between our CRIS, actual CRIS UNS system, and DSpace CRIS implementation, so that we can have synchronized editing of publications and metadata within the CRIS system, and this system that is mainly used for presentation, for dissemination, or making our research widely available or more easily available. This is a typical screen that is presented when you enter a new publication, even in regular DSpace. There is a big difference here that once we start entering the authors of a given publication, we actually have the possibility to link the publication to the actual researcher profile of a researcher that is a member of the university. So instead of presenting authors as simple strings of text that can be sometimes entered with some typos or other kinds of errors, here we have the possibility of making a link between the researcher profile and a given publication. So this kind of link will improve reporting. For example, listing publications by a given author, or by the given organizational unit, or some other kind of criteria. Once we start uploading the publication itself, we are provided with a text box on the left-hand side. There is an interface for the Shaper Romeo service that will provide us with information about what kind of document we can deposit in the repository with regards to the rules that were imposed by the publisher of this paper. Basically, by using the ISSN number of the journal, we can access the Shaper Romeo database, retrieve this information, and present it here. So it's a reminder for the authors to take care about, for example, not depositing the publisher's version of the paper in the repository, because it's not legal at the moment. But some postprints or preprints are legal in this case. Uploaded file is visible just like in any other kind of DSpace repository, but once we open it, we'll see that if it's a PDF file, there is a cover page that comes before all other pages originally uploaded by the author that presents the source of the file itself, because once these files start being downloaded, they will be shared around, and we would like to have some track embedded in the file itself about where this file comes from, meaning what is the URL of the repository it was downloaded from, and keeping this information together with the paper itself. This is an illustration of those deduplication tools that can facilitate managing duplicate entries in the repository. Duplicates can appear as duplicates in publications, and also as duplicates as researches if for some reason one researcher ends up with more than one profile. So we have developed tools to merge those profiles and take care about all of the data that describes the researcher in the merged profile. In order to have a functional repository, we need to pre-register basically all researchers at our university. And this was easily done by the means of some Google Sheets that were sent out to specific faculties, being members of the university, and they were kindly asked to fill those Google Sheets to provide some basic data that we can use to create researcher profiles. The researcher profile creation procedure was automated in such a way that these Google Sheets can be easily updated, and the updates will be reflected into the database itself. So we use them as some kind of a permanent source of information about all the researchers that should be registered in the system. Once we start adding researchers, we can see that apart from the regular faculty, there will be some PhD students, external collaborators. There are people with different kinds of status in the system. And this was the simplest way that kind of works. So typically this data is exported from some internal HR database, but also appended with people who are not actually maybe employed at the university, or not still not the PhD researchers, but should have a researcher profile in the system. And this is a page that simply provides us with an option to upload this this file and have end up with a repository that's that has basically all researchers already registered, and then we can import data from external metadata from external sources such as Scopus or some CRIS databases, and simply start with a repository that has a large percentage of publications already there, supplied with their metadata, where authors are required just to upload the actual documents themselves, not edit all metadata because it's already there. Once we have developed the software and implemented it at our universities, we carried out some trainings for university librarians and repository administrator at all our universities. And these activities were all a part of the project itself. Now, with regards to integration of this repository system with other systems, we are mostly relying on this standard that's called Open Air Guidelines for CRIS Managers. Dragan can provide you much much more details about the standard than me, but it's a great standard that provides CRIS system metadata exchange that's simple enough to be really made effective and working, unlike some more complicated standards. So we are using this standard to facilitate metadata exchange between our CRIS system and our institutional repository. The Be Open project itself also resulted with a national portal for open science. It has a simple web URL, open.ac.rs, that collects, harvests, and presents all relevant informations about open science in Serbia. You can find the list of all repositories there, and all other information such as legal documents, legal framework itself, and so on. So the project has ended up with a number of DSpace CRIS installations in our universities. They're all available in these URLs. I was responsible for implementing the University of Novi Sad repository, and it's now fully operational with all our researchers registered, and I would say that at least in sciences, less so in humanities, most of publications already imported with their metadata. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to present this project, and that will be the end of my presentation.
Okay, thank you, Branko. I think that we are finished in time with presentations, and now I would like to start our Q&A section. So we already have some questions. I will read them. I will start with a question from Lea Škorić, who is, I think that many of the attendees here are also repository managers. So there will be many questions very specific for people who run repositories and have concrete questions. So question for Mirjana is about legal status of the dissertations. She asked about the time before 2014, when you offered authors to sign an open access license, how many accepted and how many declined, and what happened after 2014 and the change in the law? How did the authors and academic institutions react to obligatory open access? Are they all complying with the mandate? And do you offer an embargo period on the dissertations when it is needed?
Yes, thank you for the question. First of all, when we offered authors to sign open access licenses, we didn't make any statistics. It was a test phase, and we offered these licenses or copyright agreements mostly to our professors and researchers at the university, where it was easy. Some of the professors and some of the departments made a positive reaction, and all of them answered positively. But later on, when we became part of the higher education systematic, made a demand to everybody to make open access. In the beginning, there were some problems, meaning that some of the PhD candidates were asking questions: what will happen if someone misuses their researches? But later on, when we told them that we cannot disregard the law which is passed, everybody soon accepted that it is normal to have open access, and we really try to give them this embargo period, but no one, until now, no one asked us for any restraints in that field. So most of our PhD candidates and PhD professors and assistants gave us open access and signed the copyright licenses. They are all in the system, so everybody can check if these licenses and agreements are really signed in that way that is necessary.
So, and this is also so with, for instance, technical universities where
Yes.
PhD candidates are often in collaboration with industry projects. So there is no problem with open access there.
Yes, because we talked about it a lot, and there is one, in fact, one reason that usually in PhD we are talking about theory, and in practice it is usually a kind of different thing. But in theory, it is just the scheme. It's not something that is really applied to some institution or some company or some real estate.
Okay.
So we don't have that problem. Until now, we didn't have it.
Okay, thank you. There is a question for Ljubomir from Biljana Kosanović. Have you noticed any increase in the citations of dissertation before and after an open access era? So do you have data about citation?
Unfortunately, no, we still didn't analyze the citations databases, but still the open era was there. We have the most downloaded dissertations in the last 4 years. So, but yeah, citations databases we still didn't analyze.
Okay, and there is another question for you. Are you informing authors about some statistical data with an email, like for example, ResearchGate does, so that your papers are downloaded so many times or something like that,
okay,
so to attract authors to publish papers?
Yeah, do we inform them? Yeah, unfortunately no, because all the data is inserted currently by the librarians, so sometimes we really miss information to contact those people, but this is something we are thinking of and probably will do in the future.
Okay, thank you. So we have some more questions just to see. Okay, there is a question about for Branko, again from Jadranka Stojanovski. Do you find the metadata descriptions from Scopus detailed enough for your needs? And are you adding some additional metadata, and in which way? And if I can add something from myself, as I come from the Humanities faculty, so you mentioned that there are not so many metadata for them. So do you think about using some other data sources besides Scopus and VOS? Because, for instance, library catalogs for books or something like that. It could be important for humanities scholars.
Yes, thank you for the question. Scopus metadata was detailed enough for our needs because it provides the most important metadata. You can always add more. We managed to configure our DSpace in such a way that basically 2 pages of metadata appear for both the authors and librarians before they can upload the file. Keeping this metadata at 2 pages maximum is the key to keep them involved. So if we open more metadata fields, that could be nice, but the point of our system was to improve dissemination and visibility of research. So basically what was already presented in Scopus was enough. Now, with regards to humanities, Scopus does not cover this field really well, and we have investigated the option of integrating our system with the library system that's used in a number of institutions in humanities in Serbia. The COBIS system is developed in Slovenia, actually, and we've been provided with an OAI PMH interface to this metadata, and we had trouble to filter out the research publications because what we were given was just a library catalog that contains both research publications, literature in general, history textbooks, and so on. So we need a way to select particular publications better. At this moment, researchers and librarians can export their publications from COBIS in a file, I mean metadata about publications, and then upload it to our system. So it's a two-step process. It's not fully automatic, but it can be done fairly easily. So at least I hope that librarians will help out our researchers in doing so.
Okay, thank you. And there is another question, both for you and for Mirjana. It's about who is responsible for adding full text to this metadata in the repository. Do the authors do that, or librarians help them? So.
I may answer that one. The full text of dissertation, of PhD dissertation, are uploaded by administrators from the student services at the faculties. Also, we have two administrative girls in administration who are doing it here at the university. But librarians are making complete metadata records. So for the digital the repository of the doctoral thesis, those are people who are making upload. And for repository, authors are giving to the are uploading to the system their full text of journal articles, and then librarians or administrators are checking up if metadata is complete and is everything okay, are there some duplicates, and it is easy to follow when we have the complete procedure completely explained to everybody in the system.
Okay. Okay, thank you. So I guess that answers the questions. Another question, I guess, again, maybe for you, is from Radovan Brana about how many administrators maintain the repository at the University of Novi Sad, or maybe Branko can answer that.
Thank you. Well, you are looking at all of them.
Okay.
At this moment, we have a maybe the hierarchy is not the nicest word, but we have two system level administrators, being Mirjana and me at the moment, and a number of librarians from each faculty assigned to curate metadata. There are two levels of access to the system where administrators can really edit out everything, and librarians cannot touch system configuration or organizational units, stuff like that, but can edit and approve metadata. So librarians are presented with screen forms that are basically identical to what authors see when they start entering their publication. Okay. I can add one more comment about that. A good repository means that you have quality librarians curating its metadata. If you don't have quality librarians, your repository does not look really well. And we are understaffed in that regard at the university. It's not a popular opinion because, you know, rectors and deans don't like to hear about we need more librarians, but really need more librarians to make this work properly.
Okay, it's nice to hear that as a librarian. I myself a librarian. There is another question similar to this one. It's about do authors understand easily and correctly which version of the paper should they upload to the repositories? And Jadranka also asked, since you mentioned the Sherpa Romeo integration, could you say something more about that? Do the librarians also have the role to sometimes explain what does it mean, a version of record or a author accepted manuscript, and is it easy for authors to understand that?
I guess that our authors still lack some knowledge in this regard. We need more efficient training of authors so they can understand the issues in this field. Sherpa Romeo integration is a really nice, helpful tool. It turned out that all major publishers are in its database. So if you're entering a journal article, if once you enter the ISSN number of the journal, we can access Sherpa Romeo database and pull the legalities in machine readable form, so we can present it in a more readable way at the file upload page. Not all publishers are there, so you can end up having no information in the sidebar. But I think that for most major publishers, the information is there. And I think it's really helpful because it presents authors with a simple view of what's allowed and what's not. I think it's understandable enough for authors to rely on that information. Now, depends on the circumstance. At some faculties, librarians are assigned to do everything. For example, the School of Law. They just use librarians to do all the work. And I guess that once you have librarians doing everything, they're skilled to do that task properly. But relying too much on authors is a problem. Somebody has to check this.
Okay. Thank you. I will use my moderator privilege and I will ask one more. There are no more questions from the audience, so I will ask just one more question to Ljubomir, if I may. You talked about usage statistics, and I wonder how who uses this PhD thesis, and where does this download come from? How do you track the referrers that lead to the downloads? Does most of the downloads come from internal search and browse, or from, I don't know, Google Scholar? And how important is it for you to have greater visibility through these services?
Oh, I'm not muted anymore. The information we have is whether these downloads are performed from our system or any other aggregated system. I mean, even though if the user search for it in the Google, download will be performed from the aggregated system or our system at the end. So how actually the user found those dissertations are actually something we do not keep track. We are just verifying whether exporting increased visibility at this moment.
Okay. Okay, thank you. Thank you all for being part of this session. Thanks, Dragan, for organizing all of this. I would like to use this opportunity to start maybe some more conversation in the future between you from Novi Sad and your team, and all about what you are doing on the repository development, with possibly Croatian team from DABA repositories. I think that we have some very common experiences, and I guess it would be similar with some other national teams and university libraries. So this is probably just the beginning of a conversation. Thank you all for being here. I hope you will join us for tomorrow's session also. I would like to remind us all that tomorrow starts a bit earlier. The first lecture starts at 9 o'clock, so we will have to start a bit earlier. Thank you again, and have a nice evening, and see you hopefully tomorrow. Goodbye, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Goodbye.